Does the sound post need to be straight from one side and from the other in order that the instrument sound its best? Yes or no? That's a good question. Today we go deeper into this subject. Stay tuned and I will tell you everything what I have experienced over 40 years of violin making. Hello, back again. This is Edgar from Cremona, Italy, and today we talk about a very serious and interesting matter, the sound post. But now we all know where it has to be, how it should be. The sound post is inside, everything good, and it happens that some people take a violin and say, it doesn't sound because the sound post isn't straight. Here you have the violin, and we look from this side because here is the E string. And from that side, we look inside the violin. Oh, then you see the sound post, right? And you see a tiny part of the sound post, just a small section of that sound post, the sides, right? And these sides, you look at it and somehow you have the impression this is straight or this is inclined to one direction or to another one. If you have now the impression it's inclined, for you it seems to be obvious it is like this or like that, but already these glasses are already distorting your view. So what you believe is straight or inclined is not necessarily straight or inclined. Every human eye has a different lens and our lenses aren't that perfect. So that's causes that one believes that it's straight like this, the other one sees it slightly inclined in this direction and the other one in this direction, okay? Said that, our initial question is, can an instrument now sound good if it's slightly inclined? Now, in one direction, it's very easy to see if it's inclined, yes or no. But in the other one, as soon as there is the end button, you cannot look inside anymore. So another good way to check this straightness of the sound post is that you turn the violin a lot of this, put a lot of light in here, and then you put your eye through this upper area of the F-hole and you look inside up to that point that you can see the sound post, the flanks again, and then you can see if it's slightly like this or slightly like that, okay? You have two options to look inside. You have with your cell phone a nice light. In my sound adjustment kit, I also give a USB cable with this LED light inside. So it's a little bit easier to illuminate the instrument inside. Generally speaking, I would say that the sound post is a piece of spruce which connects top and back in order that it vibrates, actually in perfect function, that the vibration of the back is not disturbing the vibration of the top and is amplifying actually the sound, especially on the higher frequencies, to the back from the top, which is like the engine, the piston of our engine, and the back is reflecting these higher frequencies. I actually, in the first years, I always put it straight inside, up to that point that I worked with Karl Becker and Paul Becker together in Chicago, to whom I really owe a lot of my know-how, especially when it comes to sound adjustment, then later on making the instrument sound as it maximum with the bass part and all this on bridge and tiny things, this fingerboard, and fitting even the sound post. They told me, actually, Karl at that time told me that he believes that on the long run it's better if the sound post is not straight perpendicular to the surface of the top, which is glued on, but slightly on the lower, on the back side, a little bit more inclined towards the joint. You know, students, especially when they're from Europe, it's slightly towards Germany, Austria, good compromise between Germany and Italy. Never take anything for granted. So I just wrote all these things, and then when I returned back to Europe, I started my hard years of trial and error, and check it out. Actually, I also agree that I believe that the instrument sounds bigger in tone, a little bit more powerful, and maybe even a little bit more focused. But this is now, I'm going here into not scientific statements regarding that, but at least human experience and ear is certainly also a testimony. Actually, the Soundpost, if it's not straight but slightly inclined towards the joint, sounds better. And now years go by and I tried back and forwards and everything. So I believe, first of all, my eye is made somehow in a way that what I believe is straight is actually that it's slightly inclined towards the front, slightly. Because all the rest of my company, they all agree that what I believe is straight for them is inclined. So we're talking about here 1/2 of a millimeter. Maybe even less, okay? It's just a hip, which makes it slightly inclined towards the front. This is the Soundpost, know that you can see it. Soundpost of a double bass. And this here are the ribs for my next cello. The reference you have if the Soundpost is straight or inclined is actually the line of this upper block. And usually it's this line, which is a big help that you can look at it, yeah? And the other thing that you look inside to see if the Soundpost is straight like this or like that is that you look through the F hole, you look inside, and your reference at that point is this edge of the ribs, which even if you don't use it as a reference, your eye immediately takes it as a reference. So you don't even have to force yourself. Human eye is so genius that immediately it's comparing. So you look at this one, and right now, even if I put it like this, you say, oh, it's inclined, yeah? And so it's rather inclined in this direction, and from the other side, it's inclined like this direction, okay? So it's a little bit, I would say, from my point of view, slightly on the back towards the upper side and on the back slightly towards the joint. Because we take for granted that the upper part has its initial final position, destination, let's say, and we put it there, and we don't talk about that one right now. We talk only about the lower area on the back. So all I told you does not work in case these surfaces are not attached perfectly. Said all that, it's actually a question where the Soundpost is touching, and in case it is bad fitted, it doesn't permit you to sound adjust the instrument. Everything else from that point on on a bad fitted Soundpost, it's a little bit like throwing the dices and hoping that 10 of them all at the same moment, with the next time you throw them, are all appearing with 6. Impossible. But still it could be possible that most of them are 6 and only one is a different number, let's say. And musicians usually, already by the fact that there is a different number showing every time you throw the dice, say, wow, it's already much better. But it's actually not better, it's just different. But this is not sound adjustment. This is sound lottery, and this we leave for others, okay? If you want to have everything under control, you need to dedicate some time. So that means you can get the Soundpost thrown into your violin for a few dollars. Let's say a rental instrument, in 10 minutes I can throw you in a Soundpost and next, yeah, all fine. But if you want that the result which comes out sounds in a certain way and then slowly you approach to exactly what you were dreaming of, you could also dedicate more than a week only to fit the Soundpost. Now, all of us, we have to make a living, we have to make a compromise, and we couldn't make a living dedicating a whole week for one Soundpost. But imagine, let's say, there comes in a Stradivari, a 30 million Stradivari, then certainly you would dedicate a little bit more time, because then one side, the people are willing to pay to get the maximum out of that instrument, and you couldn't agree that somebody else says, Stradivari was in the hands of Edgar, and it didn't sound at all, he made an awful Soundpost, yeah? And you wouldn't believe how often it happens that it comes from violin makers who are being paid for sound adjustment. Then musicians are unhappy and come here. And then when I take out the Soundpost, I see that there's something even cracked on the Soundpost, and it's splitting away the wood. these things, I don't really, I have difficulties to get into the position of these people working like that. It's like fooling. I'm not very economic. And if you search something economic, I think it's better you go to a different shop. We are here 200 shops, and for every budget you will find something. But if you want something being made exactly how it should be, the best way it could be, and somebody who is willing to take the maximum out of every instrument, then you're probably perfectly served once arrived in my workshop. Tiny detail at the very end. Once it is fitted very well, I discovered that it makes also a difference, always that it's nicely fitting, that you move the Soundpost only on the lower side a little bit, giving a little bit more pressure on this surface of the Soundpost, let's say towards the bridge foot, in order that it makes the first string a little bit more crunchy. I think this is all I have to tell you about this. And now to come back to the conclusion, can an instrument sound well with a not straight Soundpost? The answer is yes. And don't judge too quick. Soundpost isn't fitted very well. As long as you haven't looked inside, and as long as you haven't touched the Soundpost and you see how it is reacting by moving it, you cannot tell if it's well fitted or not. You have some further questions? Write me down below. Tell your friends, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you definitely owe me to subscribe and push that button. It doesn't cost you anything. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.